Thank you so much. Okay, we can proceed with text 18. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Any volunteers for text 18 of the 18th chapter, first canto?
I can read, Mataji, if that's okay.
Yes, Mataji, please.
Sut Uvacha.
Sutta Uvacha.
Aho Vyam Janma Brito Adyahasma.
Aho Vyam Janma Brihat Atyahasma.
Vridhanuvrityapi viloma jata.
Vridhanuvrityapi viloma jata.
Daskulyam adim vidhunuti sigram.
Daskulyamadim vidhunuti shikram.
Mahatamanam abhidhana yoga.
Mahatmanam abhidhana yoga.
Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Sri Sud Goswami said, O God, although we are born in a mixed caste, we are still promoted in birthright simply by serving and following the great who are advanced in knowledge. Even by conversing with such great souls, one can without delay cleanse oneself of all disqualifications resulting from lower births. Purport: Sut Goswami did not take his birth in a Brahmin family. He was born in a family of mixed caste or an uncultured, low family. But because of higher association like Sukadev Goswami and the great rishis of Naimisharanya, certainly the disqualification of inferior birth was washed off. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu followed this principle in pursuance of the Vedic usages, and by his transcendental association, he elevated many low-born or those disqualified by birth or action to the status of devotional service and established them in the position of acharyas or authorities. He clearly stated that any man, whatever he may be, whether a Brahmin or Shudra by birth, or a householder or mendicant in the order of society, if he is conversant with the science of Krishna, he can be accepted as an acharya or guru, a spiritual master. Sut Goswami learned the science of Krishna from great rishis and authorities like Sukadev and Vyasdev, and he was so qualified that even the sages of Naimisharanya eagerly wanted to hear from him the science of Krishna in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. So he had the double association of great souls by hearing and preaching. Transcendental science or the science of Krishna has to be learned from the authorities, and when one preaches the science, he becomes still more qualified. So Sud Goswami had both the advantages, and thus undoubtedly he was completely freed from all disqualifications of low birth and mental agonies. This verse definitely proves that Srila Sukadev Goswami did not refuse to teach Sut Goswami about the transcendental science, nor did the sages of Naimisaranya refuse to hear lessons from him because of his inferior birth. This means that thousands of years ago there was no bar to learning or preaching the transcendental science because of inferior birth. The rigidity of the so-called caste system in Hindu society became higher caste prominent within only 100 years or so, when the number of Dvija Bandhus or disqualified men in the families of higher castes increased. Lord Sri Chaitanya revived the original Vedic system, and he elevated Thakur Haridas to the position of Namacharya, or the authority in preaching the glories of the holy name of the Lord. Although His Holiness Srila Haridas Thakur was pleased to appear in a family of Muhammadans, such is the power of pure devotees of the Lord. The Ganges water is accepted as pure, and one can become purified after taking a bath in the waters of Ganges. But as far as the great devotees of the Lord are concerned, they can purify a degraded soul even by being seen by the low born. And what to speak of association? Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to purify the whole atmosphere of the polluted world by sending qualified preachers all over the world. And it remains with the Indians to take up this task scientifically and thus do the best kind of humanitarian work. The mental disease of present generation are more acute than bodily disease. It is quite fit and proper to take up the preaching of Srimad Bhagavatam all over the world without delay. Mahatmanam Abhidhana also means dictionary of great devotees, or a book full of words of great devotees. Such a dictionary of the words of great devotees and those of the Lords are in the Vedas and allied literatures, specifically the Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna. So here, basically the importance of the association, and also the fact that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu established this. Basically, he vanished this system of higher birth, like even after you were born in a Brahmin family and know nothing about the scriptures. So it's basically explaining about the association. So how one can get purified with the association of pure devotees. So here, in case of Sut Goswami, he was born in a lower family, but still he got association from Sukdev Goswami and also the sages of Naimisaranya. And that's how he was even more purified, because one side he was listening and the other side he was also preaching. So he got the double benefit. So that's all I understood in summary. Mataji, Prabhuji, please add.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so much for sharing. Anyone else also wants to share something?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Danvat Pranam to all the devotees, all devotees to Srila Prabhupada. One question I had actually about Suta Goswami. Was his father Romharshan Suta?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So father was very elevated. So father was a Brahmana, right? So mixed class, maybe the mother then was of a different class?
Yes, Prabhuji. Either of them was, one was Brahman, one was Kshatriya. So
Okay, so
mother
that
was Brahman. No, mother was Brahman and father was Kshatriya. That's why he was considered lower class, because it was a pratilom marriage. The father has to be Brahman and the mother has to be Kshatriya. Then it's okay. It's anulom.
oh okay. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you for
So
explaining.
Romharshan Sutta was a Kshatriya?
Sorry, Mataji, could not hear you. Neil.
Yeah, she's asking, just confirming. So Romharshan Suta was a Kshatriya, right? Then?
Yes, his wife was a Brahmin. He was
Okay. Okay. Thank you,
considered
Mataji.
as Pratilom.
Yes, thank you very much. And then one thing I recently heard in a lecture, which
Hare,
Hare
sorry
Krishna
to interrupt,
Prabhuji. Go ahead,
bro.
please.
Hare Krishna, Dandatram. Mataji, can you repeat once again what you said, Deepika Mataji, about
Yes,
Suta?
Romharshan was born of a like I think the mother has to be Brahmin. The mother has to be Kshatriya and the father has to be Brahmin. Then it is called Anulom marriage, Prabhuji. But if the father is of a lower caste like Kshatriya and the mother is of a Brahmin, then they call it Pratilom. So Romharshan was born of this family. That's why they considered him as a
You
lower.
mean Sut Goswami was born or Romharshan was born?
Romharshan was born of like that, his family. And Sut Goswami was born of Romharshan. So they considered him also lower caste because of his father's lineage. This is given in Krishna book, Prabhuji, in the killing of Romharshan chapter.
Okay. Because Romharshan was also a disciple of Vyasa.
Vyasudev, yes, he was sitting on that asan, and
So
when
he was considered as Brahman or no?
No, he was not considered Brahman because his father was a Kshatriya. Even though he was a Kshatriya, they offered him Vyasasan, and that is when Lord Balram killed him with the blade of grass. The other sages, they were like exhausted and they were saying, "Alas, alas, you killed him." But we have given him benediction for long life, even though he was low born. He was sitting in Vyasasan, so he was not supposed to stand for you like that.
So his father was a Kshatriya.
Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji, for clarifying.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So what I was saying earlier was that one thing that struck me recently during lecture was like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could have picked anybody as Namacharya. Like, he had so many, all the people who were there with him, like Advaita Acharya, like Advaita Acharya was actually the ideal person in the sense that he was a Brahmana, everybody looked up to him and things like that, to be called as Namacharya. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chose Haridas Thakur to be the Namacharya to set this precedent. Like, so that thing struck me very much that, we always think that, yes, that is why that is was the whole point of why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chose Haridas Thakur to set a precedent and set this example that the birth, in a Mohammedan family or lower caste family or things like that doesn't really count. Um, so yeah, but I had never looked at Haridas Thakur being chosen as the Namacharya in that light before. That yes, other people probably, Advaita Acharya and other people also were so very elevated, and they also used to be chanting the whole day. But the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chose Namacharya as Haridas Thakur, so that he can show this example that when he can choose it directly, Krishna himself, then who are we to distinguish? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for sharing such nice points. Nirbhay Prabhu, Deepika Mataji. Thank you so much. Also Anita Mataji. Anyone else wants to also add more? I think there's a lot that can be said for sure. Shall we move on to the next shloka? Anyone?
So,
Yes.
just as we're reading this purport, few things I was thinking. One is Prabhupada has quoted here, not quoted, he's explained here one of the shlokas from Chaitanya Charitamrita, the last line of the first paragraph. Anybody remembers that shloka? Yei vipra yei nyashi shudra keninai yei Krishna tattvavita sei guru. So this is the qualification of one who can become a spiritual master, one who knows the signs of Krishna. Whenever Prabhupada was asked this question, who can become a guru, Prabhupada always said that one who knows the signs of Krishna, that person can become a guru. And then here so many points are mentioned about Suta Goswami. So brings us to the first chapter of this canto, where it is mentioned when the sages were receiving Suta Goswami, they were actually mentioning what qualities does Suta Goswami have, because of which he is the person who should be approached to learn from. Right? Can anybody remember what all qualities were there? Anything? You can just tell one quality.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sut Goswami, when they were the sages of Nemi Sharanya were welcoming Shri Sut Goswami, they were making statements that how Sut Goswami actually is a person from whom such signs should be heard of Bhagavatam. So what were those qualities in Sut Goswami?
Freed from all vices.
Yes, correct.
He should be like the eldest, learned,
That is the one who is asking the questions.
Yeah. Submissive, I think one of I remember.
Because eldest Sukhdev Goswami, for example, is not necessarily eldest, right? So not necessarily the age, but yes, he should be free from all vice.
Submissive.
Submissive, okay. So submissively, who has heard from his own spiritual master, right? Sud Goswami had heard from Sukhdev Goswami, and he knew what is the purpose of the reason for which the Lord appeared and all the great details, right? And he had heard all the different scriptures, and he knew all this. So because he submissively heard from his spiritual master, now he is kind of empowered. So now he is able to give it to others. So that is very important, to be empowered. In the life of Srila Prabhupada also we see Srila Prabhupada was at the place of his Guru Maharaj listening from him, and they were actually in a temple, and darshan was about to open, the Lord's darshan. So they said, okay, if anybody wants to take darshan are open, they can go. And Guru Maharaj will be speaking for another certain time, 15 more minutes or something. And majority people from there went to take darshan. Only the senior disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj and this new boy, quote unquote new boy, because Srila Prabhupada was not initiated or connected to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj from the external perspective. But this new boy Abhay, who had been attending just handful of previous sessions, is now sitting here and simply hearing from his guru. And then later on, at a different time, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj's disciple, one of the disciples, they said, pointing towards Abhay, that Abhay, he wants to take initiation from you. And then Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj looked at him and he said, yes, I will initiate him. He hears very attentively. And then, if I remember correctly, Srila Prabhupada got both and first and second initiation together. So that's how Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj had acknowledged Srila Prabhupada's hearing. So because Prabhupada heard submissively, attentively, that's why Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj said, because he has heard nicely, he'll speak nicely. So similarly, here we see Srila Sudha Goswami heard submissively, attentively, in a submissive spirit and devotional spirit. So he is bestowed by the mercy of the Lord coming through the Guru. And the other thing is, he knew the essence of the scriptures. And Sudha Goswami, if we see, is bestowed all this mercy, like it was mentioned, right? Horama Archana was given all the blessings, and then later on they were transferred to his son. So he had all the blessings of the great sages as well as his Guru Maharaj. So of course he was in a position to speak. So like that, there are a few more points actually which are there in the first chapter. Thank you. That's what I wanted to share.
Hare Krishna, yes. So text 6, 7, and 8 of the first chapter, first canto, are describing the qualities of Sudha Goswami that Prabhuji was trying to explain. Okay. Shall we move on to the next shloka? Any volunteers to read text 19?
Hare Krishna Mataji, I can cite. Kuta punargrinato naam tasya.
कुता पुनर्गृह्णतु नाम तस्य
Mahatmaikanta parayanasya.
महत्मिकान्तापरायणस्य
Yonantashaktir Bhagavan Ananto.
योऽनन्तशक्तिर्भगवानन्तो
Mahan Gunatvad Yamanantamahu.
महाद्गुणत्वाद्यमनन्तमाहु.
Hare Krishna. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Isi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. And what to speak of those who are under the direction of the great devotees, chanting the holy name of the Unlimited, who has unlimited potency. The personality of Godhead, unlimited in potency and transcendental by attributes, is called Ananta or unlimited. Unlimited in potency and transcendental by attributes is called Ananta. Purport. The Dvijabandhu, or the less intelligent, uncultured men born of higher castes, put forward many arguments against the lower caste men being Brahmanas in this life. They argue that birth in a family of Shudras or less than Shudras is made possible by one's previous sinful acts, and that one, therefore, has to complete the terms of disadvantages due to lower birth. And to answer these false logicians, Srimad Bhagavatam asserts that one who chants the holy name of the Lord under the direction of a pure devotee can at once get free from the disadvantages due to a lower caste birth. A pure devotee of the Lord does not commit any offense while chanting the holy name of the Lord. There are 10 different offenses in the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. To chant the holy name under the direction of a pure devotee is offenseless chanting. Offenseless chanting of the holy name of the Lord is transcendental, and therefore such chanting can at once purify one from the effects of all kinds of previous sins. This offenseless chanting indicates that one has fully understood the transcendental nature of the holy name and has thus surrendered unto the Lord. Transcendently, the holy name of the Lord and the Lord himself are identical, being absolute. The holy name of the Lord is as powerful as the Lord. The Lord is the all-powerful personality of Godhead, and he has innumerable names, which are all non-different from him and are equally powerful also. In the last word of the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord asserts that one who surrenders fully unto him is protected from all sins by the grace of the Lord. Since his name and he himself are identical, the holy name of the Lord can protect the devotee from all effects of the sins. The chanting of the holy name of the Lord can undoubtedly deliver one from the disadvantages of a lower caste birth. The Lord's unlimited power is extended on and on by the unlimited expansion of the devotees and incarnation, and thus every devotee of the Lord and incarnation also can be equally surcharged with the potency of the Lord. Since the devotee is surcharged with the potency of the Lord, even fractionally, the disqualification due to lower birth cannot stand in the way. Haribol. So, very powerful purport. Prabhupada is hitting the nail with the hammer very, very hard about this point. So the translation says that, so before we said that, okay, Sud Goswami was born, he was inferior birth, mixed caste, all these things, but he was still, very qualified to preach this message of Bhagavatam to the sages of Naimisharanya. And we just read his qualifications. Sages concluded that you are very qualified to preach us this message. So now in this verse, Prabhupada is saying, so what about, Mataji, can you scroll to the translation? So what to speak of those people that are chanting holy name of the unlimited, and he is unlimited, so they will also, he's unlimited in his potency, in his attributes, and is called Ananta or unlimited. So he has unlimited potency. So in this way, somebody who's chanting the holy name of the unlimited will also develop potency like that as well, and will be, and the gist of this is that he will be freed from previous sins, and Krishna has reassured us of that in Bhagavad Gita, that you will be freed of the sinful reactions of the past, just surrender unto me. So by chanting the name purely in offenseless manner under the guidance of a pure devotee, offenseless chanting without committing any apradhs, like we've been, Mataji has been sending these videos about what are the various offenses or nam aprad. There are 10 different offenses in the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. So we've been hearing those videos about what are the various offenses. So somebody who's completely surrendered understands that the name is not different from Krishna. He understands that the holy name is transcendental, and Lord has so many inconceivable potencies, energies through which um, one can connect to the Lord, and his name is one way with which one can completely connect to the God. And so somebody who's chanting offenselessly is completely surrendered to the Lord, because he understands that the Lord is transcendental and inconceivable, and unlimited potencies, right? Those that are not chanting offenselessly, like if we are committing nam aprad, we are distracted, our mind goes here and there, so many other things, we are not fully have full faith in the holy name, we doubt it, those things, right? So if we commit those, or so many other things we commit, if we commit those offenses, that means we are not fully surrendered. But one who is a pure devotee of the Lord and has been chanting offenselessly, he is connecting to the unlimited potency of the Lord. So the devotee will also be surcharged with that same potency. So whatever his previous sinful reactions are, because of which he got this inferior birth, they don't matter anymore. All those disadvantages of the inferior birth will be gone. He'll be delivered from that. So he becomes pure. And so this logic of the Vijbandhus, the Prabhupada is calling them less intelligent, uncultured men. And I've seen this, I've heard this logic from some people as well. They'll say, we are Brahman, we are born in the higher caste because we did some good karmas in our previous life. So um, so that is how they are thankful to the Lord, that okay, we did good karma in our previous life and born in a Brahmanic family. But now they're wasting their human life. They're now drinking, eating meat, and doing other things. So even though they got Brahmanical birth, but not taking advantage of that good birth, good fortune. Compared to that, somebody who may be born in an inferior, lower caste, but he's chanting the holy names of the Lord. So he is so much more elevated and advanced. He's connecting to the unlimited potency of the Lord. He understands Lord is transcendental, and his energies, his expansions, his potencies are unlimited, difficult to understand. So he is completely surrendered. On the other hand, this high caste Brahman is committing sins and offenses on a daily basis and accruing sinful reactions for to keep entangled in the cycle of birth and death. So better than that is such a birth where one can be in association of the pure devotee of the Lord and be chanting offenselessly. That's all I had to share. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji, for sharing. Anybody else also wants to add points?
I was reminded of this verse from Shikshashtakam Mataji. Nam Namakari Bahuda Nij Sarva Shaktis Tatarpita Niyamita Smaranena Kalaha Etadrishi Tav Kripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdevam Idrisham Iha Janena Nuragaha. The translation is that, O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benedictions to living beings. And thus you have hundreds and millions of names, like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji. Yeah, Shikshashtakam is very beautiful. And if we can imbibe those instructions, we can take steps towards surrendering to the holy names. Long way to go before we actually understand that chanting holy names is not different from the Lord himself. Actually, Lord Chaitanya has given us the essence of the Vedanta, the essence of the scriptures in this chanting, that we can simply attain perfection simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord. So here, Sutta Goswami, in the previous verse, he was speaking about himself, that simply by following those who are advanced in knowledge, we are able to, even by conversing with such great souls, one can without delay cleanse oneself of all disqualifications resulting from lower births. And then he speaks about those who are chanting under the direction of the great devotees. And chanting the name of the unlimited, who is unlimited potency. So it's a nice verse and purport glorifying the holy name. Anyone else wants to bring up any points here? Otherwise, we can move on to 20th. Anyone wants to read 20th?
I can read Mataji.
Yes, ma'am.
एतावतालं ननुसूचितेन
एतावतालं ननु सूचितेन
गुणैर असाम्यानतिशानयस्य
गुणैरसाम्यानतिशायनस्य
हित्वेततारन् प्रार्थयतो विपूते
तारान् प्रार्थयतो
प्रार्थयतो
यस्याङ्घ्रिरेणुं चुषते अनपिभिप्सो
यस्याङ्घ्रिरेणुं चक्षते नभिप्सो
Hare Krishna. Translation by C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. It is now ascertained that He, the personality of Godhead, is unlimited and there is none equal to Him. Consequently, no one can speak of Him adequately. Great demigods cannot obtain the favor of the goddess of fortune even by prayers. But this very goddess renders service unto the Lord, although He is unwilling to have such service. Purport. The personality of Godhead or the Parmeshwara Par-Brahman, according to the Shrutis, has nothing to do. He has no equal, nor does anyone excel Him. He has unlimited potencies, and his every action is carried out systematically in His natural and perfect ways. Thus, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is full in Himself, and He has nothing to accept from anyone else, including the great demigods like Brahma. Others ask for the favor of the goddess of fortune, and despite such prayers, she declines to award such favors. But still, she renders service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although He has nothing to accept from her. The personality of Godhead in His Garbhodakshai Vishnu features begets Brahma, the first created person in the material world, from his navel, lotus stem, and not in the womb of goddess of fortune, who is eternally engaged in His service. These are some of the instances of His complete independence and perfection. That He has nothing to do does not mean that He is impersonal. He is transcendently so full of inconceivable potencies that simply by His willing, everything is done without physical or personal endeavor. He is called, therefore, Yogeshwara, or the Lord of all mystic powers. Hare Krishna. So, in this purport, Prabhupada is explaining about the power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That why is He called the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Why is He called God? Because He is perfect. And why is He perfect? There are certain instances Prabhupada is mentioning in this purport, that the birth of Brahmaji, it was Brahmaji was born from the from the uh, lotus stem of Garbhodaksha is Vishnu's navel. So that's how he's saying that, although, and we know that here, that how a child is born, right? But with Krishna, it is not the case. He does not. He is so independent, and he is so powerful that to execute certain any task, he does not need anybody. So here, Prabhupada is saying that the goddess of uh, uh, fortune is rendering service to Krishna, although Krishna is unwilling to have such services. And Prabhupada is giving a comparison here that the great demigods cannot obtain the favor of goddess of fortune even by prayers. But that goddess of fortune all the time in the service of Krishna, although Krishna does not need or willing to have that service, but she does it all by her own will. So, so that's my understanding from here. And Prabhupada is saying that, why, and he is called therefore Yogeshwara, or the Lord of all mystics power, because Krishna is complete in himself. And he has so many inconceivable potencies that it's very difficult to understand his leelas. So we know, when Krishna was so little in the Putna's pastime, for a normal person, it is so difficult to understand that how can a small baby can kill a big, demon like Putna or other demons. When Krishna was young, he was, he defeated Kalia in the Yamuna Krida Leela to teach him a lesson that how Krishna was able to do all that things. और जब कृष्णा ने जो है डस्ट खाने वाली लीला में माँ यशोदा को अपने माउथ में he showed the complete universe. So because he is complete in himself and he has such inconceivable potencies, it is not possible for a normal person to understand Krishna's leela, right? And to compare Krishna with somebody else, it's such a foolish act that Krishna is compared to like normal people sometimes. Before understanding or reading, I also used to think like this कि राम जी भी है, ये भी है, और other demigods को भी same ही category में समझती थी मैं. But after reading all this, it is and with Prabhupada's elaborated purports, it's so easy to understand that Krishna cannot be compared with anybody else. He is above everything. And that's why Prabhupada is saying that nobody can excel him. So if nobody can compare Krishna, there is no point of excelling him. Prabhupada very nicely explained the power of Krishna in this purport. So that's all my understanding from this. And I yeah, that's all my understanding from this purport. Prabhuji Mataji, please add and correct. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you for sharing your realizations. Anyone else wants to add? I actually, if no one else has anything to add, I just wanted to share one very interesting thought that, sometimes we can get challenged and asked. I'll just share. This is just a lecture that I'm assisting with proofreading. And it's a lecture by His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. And Maharaj made a point that I'd just like to read because I'm not, there is no way that I can replicate this in my own words, what Maharaj said. So, so here he's talking about, how same point, similar point to what we read here, that how Brahmaji comes from the navel of Garbhodakshai Vishnu, and through a lotus stem, and so many people, especially if we try to explain such things to them in this world, right, they may not be able to directly understand, because somehow the other Krishna, or we have been have the blessing of being born in Bharat Bhumi. Somehow the other, we have this basic understanding, that some kind of faith we are, we have been blessed with, that it's easy for us to kind of understand these things. But Maharaj actually here, so I'm going to start reading from here. So basically, here Maharaj is saying, now you may think, how is this possible? That something that is beginningless can have a beginning? Like, just that in the spiritual world, everything is eternal. Maharaj is describing here. We come across, some things in our, as we read Bhagavatam, as we listen to different stories. Over here, there's a concept of, Brahmaji being born out of a lotus stem, which is coming out of the navel of Garbhodakshai Vishnu. But here, they're talking about how everything in the spiritual world is eternal, and there is no beginning and no end. And but yet there is a pastime which is just begun. Like, this is the beginning of the pastime, even though the pastime is eternally happening. So here Maharaj is saying, now you may think, how is this possible, that something that is beginningless can have a beginning? It is not possible for you to understand through your rational process of discrimination. But if we understand the inconceivable transcendental potencies of the absolute truth, it could be understood through faith. That which is beyond the mind's limited conceptions can be understood clearly through the process of faith. But this is not blind faith. It is reasonable faith based on logic and philosophy. Through logic and philosophy, we can comprehend how the Supreme Absolute Truth has such inconceivable potencies that he can do anything, anytime, anywhere, according to his free will. Therefore, the more inconceivable the pastimes of the Lord may be, the more it brings tears to our eyes and jubilation to our hearts, because we understand and accept it through faith. And that faith becomes reality as it becomes more and more purified. In the beginning of sadhana bhakti, we believe on the base of an intellectual understanding of the inconceivable powers of God. But through hearing and chanting in that association and humbly taking the menial position of a servant, gradually our faith becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. In fact, spiritual advancement is simply the awakening of faith. And when our faith becomes perfect, then we can have direct experience and realization of the Lord, his names, his forms, and his pastimes within our hearts. In such a state, if anyone says this is impossible, all we can do is cry in pity for such a foolish, unfortunate soul. I don't know if it is making sense, but I was just reminded of this, because without faith, it is so difficult for someone to be able to even perceive, that such a thing can happen, that Brahmaji can be born out of a lotus. Like, it's little difficult to imagine. And actually somewhere else in the same lecture, it's little hard to find where that how because our and we have heard it, I'm sure, in several places. All the devotees are listening to lectures must have heard it before, that how because of our material education, because we are so accustomed to that everything through this particular mentality, this process, we're so tiny in this material world, but yet we have so much faith in things that are proven through the medium of senses, which are so imperfect, um, that that it's so hard for us to conceive. It's like the Dr. Frog mentality, which Srila Prabhupada describes, where he only knows everything in his own well. He doesn't know anything that is beyond his well, even though there is a frog that is visiting from outside of the well and speaking about how vast the ocean is, and that he's just visited and come. But the frog in the well is not able to understand how big an ocean can be. He's so satisfied in his own little well that he's not able to even conceive or even perceive or even have that faith, you know in this bigger reality. Actually, there's one more here. Similar point is being about, this is just a story of Lakshmipati Tirtha, who is the guru of Nityanand Prabhu. And basically, these first couple of paragraphs, right? So apparently there's a song by Srila Narottam Das Thakur, in which he sings in simple Bengali language, that actually this is the one we sing quite frequently. Brajendra Nandan. So the Lord Krishna is the son of Nanda Maharaj, the king of Vraja. Brajendra Nandan hoy, Sachi Sutta hoilo se, Balaram hoilo Nitai. So became the son of Sachi, Lord Chaitanya, and Balram became Nitai. And we have discussed in brief some of the situations that arose around this time that warranted these changes. We've also introduced some of the Vaishnavas who performed this task for the Lord. The change itself to many meant seeing heart-rendering devotion to the Lord, in which was in many cases unable to be contained because of its intensity. Some objects, so basically, they're talking about, when you read CC, for example, or even like many parts of Bhagavatam, there are some things that we don't understand. It can be called sentimentalism or whatever. It's very difficult to perceive that level of emotion, or that level of bhakti. And it's, instead of appreciating these, we may think, perceive, like here we're talking about Brahma coming out of the stem, over there we're talking about spiritual world, everything is eternal, yet there is a beginning to something that is beginningless. Here we're talking about very deep, intense feelings. So I just wanted to bring this to light here, that there is sometimes a lot missed by those who try to merely rationalize everything. Those who are logicians or academics, often showing that they cannot see outside of their paradigm or square. Shravana, study, or scrutiny of Shastra may be necessary to give one the basis for discrimination between all these different philosophical terminologies. And the reflection helps us to fix our mind on the import at hand. However, the persons who are relating to here are already fixed in their conclusion of Shastra. The need for logical argumentation, discussion, or rhetorical persuasion may even impair one's vision rather than enhance it. We have found this especially to be relevant to those who have come from certain ethnic cultures which are very strong and maybe say dominant. Often it is easier to accept things as they are if one doesn't know anything in the first place. Sometimes the example of two youths who come to the music teacher to learn to play an instrument is cited. The first youth was asked, "Do you know how to play the piano?" "No," was his reply. "Your fee will be $400, said the teacher. And the second student was asked if he knew how to play. "Yes, I taught myself few pieces," with the reply. And then he says, "Oh, your fee will be $800, because first you have to unlearn what you already know before you learn what they can train you with." So basically, the point that I'm trying to bring here is that such esoteric things that the Lord is he does such kind of things, even like I think in the same lecture, um Maharaj is talking a little bit later about how big. Yeah, so I just want to read this part as well. Recently on a Ram Vijayotsava, we were in New Ramanreti in Alachua, Florida, and we were briefly explaining some of the pastimes that led up to the killing of Ravan by Ram. And we described Kumbhakarna, his size, and how they were elephants and horses running all over his body just to try to wake him up. And afterward, one of the devotees approached another devotee. He said, "How can we believe these things? How could anyone be that big? This is all just stories like what they make up for children. How could anyone believe this?" And then Maharaj asked, do any of you ever have these doubts? I don't know about all of you. Maybe all of you have better faith than I do. But this really struck me because I tend to have these doubts. How can this happen? How is this even possible? So do you any of you have ever had these doubts in your lives? But why not believe it? If Krishna can create the sun, if Krishna can create the earth, Krishna can create all the planets, he cannot create a man that's so big that elephants can run on his body. Someone who performs tapasya to gain this type of strength. For Krishna, anything and everything is possible. So we have to put aside this mundane reasoning. We have to accept things on the basis of what God reveals through Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. And similarly, the descriptions, actually, we will come to this eventually in the second chapter. Things may not be 100% clear to us. And, when it came to the descriptions of the various planets, there was quite a substantial contradiction between what the Shastras are saying and what is normally understood through through looking at the telescope through our eyes. Prabhupada would not let us for a moment even get away from that. He would remind us again and again, because you cannot go to Krishna as long as you're attached to your rationalistic, materialistic thinking or those of others. So basically, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is describing, Arishtasur mentality as Aristotle mentality, because Aristotle taught about rationalistic thinking in order to make spiritual advancement. So many times Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati will quote Aristotle. He'll call Arishtasur as, because Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur goes into further detail on the subject, that false religion of mundane rationalizations. So we try to rationalize things that we're reading. What I'm just trying to, connect here is that sometimes we try to rationalize things and we try to understand it, from our very materialistic education perspective, that how is it possible that just now Rakshita Mataji very nicely explained that the Lord is not, even the Lord's birth we celebrate Janmashtami, it is described that the Lord was born with so many jewels, so many beautiful, he looked so beautiful when he was born. And the way he was born was through the heart of Vasudev. He was transferred into the heart of Devaki and then to Devaki's womb. So these kind of things, so many things will also come up that are very hard, difficult for us to perceive, that how is this happening, but we just, like Prabhupada is saying here, that we have to surrender, especially starting reading Bhagavatam. We have come to the point where we have already surrendered. End of Bhagavad Gita says, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. So similarly, we have to simply surrender all these materialistic conceptions that we're already coming with, and kind of start to have that faith in Guru Sadhu Sastra, and to in order to understand who the Lord really is. I hope it's making sense. I don't know if what I have just shared made any sense, but maybe I'm just very materialistic minded, hence I need this kind of explanation to understand these things. But please feel free to share if there is something not understood. Hare Krishna, or if you can correct me. Hari Bol.
Thank you for explaining, Mataji. It was beautiful.
Yes, thank you, Mataji. Definitely those doubts do come, and we perceive everything still, with our senses, and um, very difficult to visualize such things. So um, I just, the way I take it is that, uh, going back to the basic instructions of the beginning of our first few days, like when we were doing Journey of Self-Discovery with Prabhuji, and he described about various evidences, right, pramans. So if we have decided to believe in the scriptures, then cannot believe in certain parts and discard certain other parts of the scriptures. So scriptures are the basis of our progress, and we have we have fully surrendered to the word of the scriptures, to devotees and guru. So if they are saying that this is uh, all correct, then we have faith in that and um, continue. That's how I perceive it. But yes, you're right. And those, I love those transcripts of the lectures, the ones that you were showing. Very interesting discussion there. But yes, we should know how to, because this question can be posed, and it is, these are all internal matters. Like matter of faith is a very internal, very, it is a matter of heart. It is very difficult to explain some things by just logic or philosophy, or if somebody is very connected to material sciences, then very difficult to explain with the laws of sciences and all. You have to take a leap of faith and uh, try to understand with your heart, not so much from your brain. And remember that our body, our brains, our understanding, intelligence, logics, they have very obvious faults, flaws in them. So with that leap of faith, we just surrender and hope that one day our faith will get stronger, and we'll be able to explain these things to other people also. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, and actually in this, I think it probably the same lecture or somewhere else. It was being said by Maharaj that it you will, I if you are not able to fall, like if you're not able to accept, like in Bhagavad Gita we hear that shloka 2.13, Dihinosmen yatha dehi kaumaram yavanam jara. In translation it says a sober person is not bewildered by such a change. So I was just thinking, what is the opposite of sober? Intoxicated. Intoxicated by what? Intoxicated by one's own, pride and one's intelligence, pride in one's, one's, whatever, intelligence, or his own tiny brain, or whatever it may be, you know many times we take so much pride in rationalizing things, so much that it's so hard to become sober. It becomes so difficult to sober ourselves. So hence people, those who are so simple minded, who they have not really just look at the bridgevasis, or all these very people coming from very simple backgrounds. For them it's not difficult at all to accept these things. In fact, they are so their, in fact, their faith is so sharp, like so strong. They, anything connected to the Lord, they're automatically able to connect anything and everything to the Lord. But for us, and us in the sense I'm speaking about myself, it's so complicated that it goes through, like you first connect it to yourself, like you first try to connect it to, not even to ourselves, like to something that my intelligence is concocted. Actually, in that same lecture, Maharaj very strongly says that if you are attached to your own false ego in trying to understand these things, you will either become an atheist or you will become bewildered. So better to simply surrender, or better to simply pray in such a situation to eventually get some understanding. So just wanted to share those things. I thought it'd be nice to bring up that, because there will be several situations while reading Bhagavatam throughout, where we come across such things. Um, and over again, we try to rationalize, we try to you know in fact, just yesterday's lecture, I just want to share this last point before we end it. Yesterday, His Holiness Radhan Maharaj did a class, like a satsang, and he was talking about, even yesterday I was just reflecting on our discussion about this Bhagavatam, and Anita Mataji's beautiful question on who spoke the Bhagavatam, who spoke to whom. So and then after the class also, I went through few short talks which I had heard in the past, and which I wanted to just review. And I was just seeing that yes, Shukdev Goswami spoke the Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj, which was again repeated by sages of Naimisharanya, or Sut Goswami to the sages of Naimisharanya. And over there, Vyasdev was also sitting in the audience, listening to Sut Goswami at the time. And then Vyasdev again spoke it, to us in this form. And then I was just thinking, this is such a complex matter. Like, it's so difficult to understand, first of all, and then it's so difficult to explain also to someone, that even if we think we understand it, we think oh, yes, now I've understood everything. But actually, there's such a complex matter. And I was just reflecting on what Maharaj had said the other day. He had said that if you think, if you approach Srimad Bhagavatam thinking that you already know everything, then Bhagavatam will not reveal itself to you. And that was, I felt like that was such a powerful point, because many times, you know, you want to be thorough, you want to know everything. And in that mood, you know, somehow we fail to surrender to the words. You know, we fail to surrender to the message that is being given, and that does not exactly, you know, we get lost in the details, we get lost in the you know the facts, rather than you know, feeling any transformation from the message. So you know, and then I don't know if anyone attended that class, but Maharaj is also sharing like the story of Dhananjay Pandit, who recently we celebrated the disappearance day of, how he was, you know, such a popular reciter of Bhagavatam, but he failed to understand the message. He didn't have any transformation of the heart, because he was so intoxicated by the way, you know, he was reciting Bhagavatam, that he even committed offense against, you know, we many times we hear about the you know, the story of the South Indian Brahman, Lord Chaitanya. He was illiterate, but he was reciting Bhagavad Gita, you know, albeit imperfectly. But and Lord Chaitanya saw him repeating, you know, Bhagavad Gita, and he said that, you know, he will get pure love of God, because because he has the faith, he is following the order of his guru. So I guess, you know, if we just simply continue and pray to Krishna, so eventually that we can come out of, you know, these materialistic mindsets in approaching these transcendental literatures. We can also get the essence of what is being trying to being conveyed to us, which is pure love of God. So with that, let's pray to Krishna. We'll chant 11 times Hare Krishna and pray intensely